There is a path that every person called to something higher must walk. It is not crowded. It does not echo with the voices of many. It is the road of solitude, a place where men and women destined for greatness are tested, shaped, and refined. It is here, in the quiet moments away from the crowd, that the true foundation of greatness is built. The world often paints greatness as something to be celebrated publicly. People imagine bright lights, applause, and recognition, but the reality is much different. Before a man or woman ever steps onto a stage, before they ever influence lives, before they ever leave a lasting impact on the world, they must first endure the silence. They must first walk alone. Every great leader, every world changer, every person who has left a mark on history has had seasons of isolation. These are not wasted moments. They are not punishments, they are preparations. In solitude, the distractions are removed, and the soul is confronted with its own reality. There is no crowd to impress, no noise to hide behind, just the raw truth of who you are and what you are becoming. Many resist this solitude. They seek to fill the quiet with noise, with entertainment, with anything that numbs the discomfort of being alone. But those who embrace it, those who allow the silence to shape them, will find something far greater than temporary distractions. They will find clarity. They will find purpose. They will find God speaking in ways that the noise of the world could never allow them to hear. Look at history and you will see this truth repeated over and over again. The greatest figures, the ones who changed the course of humanity, were first called away from the crowd. They were taken to places where there was no recognition, no applause, no validation from others. They had to walk alone, to wrestle with doubt, to face their own weaknesses, to be tested in ways that no one else could see. And when the time was right, when they had been shaped by the fire of solitude, they emerged with a strength and a purpose that could not be shaken. Solitude is not just about being alone, it is about transformation. It is in this space that character is developed. Weaknesses are exposed and true strength is built. The man who cannot endure being alone with his thoughts, the woman who cannot sit in the silence of uncertainty, will never reach the heights they were meant to reach, because it is in these moments that God prepares a person for what is ahead. The path to greatness is not one of constant companionship. Friends will come and go. Some will walk with you for a season. But when the journey demands something deeper, when the calling requires sacrifice, many will turn back. This is not a sign that you are lost. It is a sign that you are on the right path, because not everyone is meant to go where you are going. It is in solitude that conviction is strengthened. A person who has learned to stand alone is a person who cannot be swayed by the opinions of others. They do not need the validation of the crowd because they have been tested in the quiet place. They have faced their fears, their doubts, and their struggles without an audience. They have learned to rely on something greater than human approval. This road is not easy. There will be moments when you will question everything, moments when you will wonder if it is worth it. The temptation to turn back, to seek comfort, to surround yourself with people who do not challenge you will be strong. But those who resist that temptation, those who endure the solitude, will find something that cannot be taken away. In a world that constantly measures success by popularity, the pursuit of greatness requires a radical shift in perspective. The world tells us that the louder the applause, the greater the achievement. It tells us that influence is validated by how many follow us, how many people approve of us. Yet true greatness does not come from the fleeting approval of the masses. It is not found in the applause of men, but in the unwavering commitment to a higher purpose, a commitment rooted in faith rather than in popularity. When we look at those who have changed the world, those who have risen to greatness, we find a pattern. It is not one of constantly seeking the approval of others or chasing after fame and recognition. Instead, it is the story of individuals who have remained steadfast in their faith despite the pressures to conform, to compromise, to follow the crowd. They did not need the validation of others because they were focused on something far more significant: their calling and their faith. For many, the temptation to seek popularity is strong. We live in an age of social media where validation is often just a like or a comment away. It's easy to get caught up in the need to be seen, to be admired, to be accepted by others. The fear of being overlooked, ignored, or rejected can cloud our judgment and pull us off the path of purpose. But the truth is, the pursuit of popularity is a shallow and transient goal. It is a pursuit that will always leave you feeling empty and unfulfilled, because the approval of people is fickle. It comes and goes with the wind. One day you're celebrated, the next day you're forgotten. Faith, on the other hand, is unshakable. It does not depend on the opinions of others. It is a deep-rooted conviction that transcends circumstances, that stands firm even in the face of adversity. It is the quiet assurance that you are doing what you were meant to do, even when no one is watching. Faith does not demand recognition from the world because it is rooted in the certainty that your purpose is aligned with something much greater than the applause of men. True greatness is not achieved by winning the popularity contest. It is achieved by staying true to your values, by trusting in the calling that has been placed upon your life, even when the world around you tells you to follow another path. It is about doing what is right, even when it's difficult, even when it means standing alone. Popularity may bring comfort in the moment, but it will not sustain you when the trials come, when the storms rage, and when the road ahead is unclear. Faith is what keeps you going when everything else seems uncertain. Consider the lives of those who have made the greatest impact in the world. Many of them were not popular in their time. They were often misunderstood, ridiculed, and rejected. But they did not bend to the pressure to conform. They did not chase after the approval of the crowd. Instead, they remained steadfast in their faith, knowing that their purpose was greater than any temporary recognition. They understood that greatness is not measured by how many people approve of you, but by how faithfully you walk in your purpose, regardless of the opinions of others. In moments of doubt, it is faith that provides the strength to continue. When the path is unclear, faith illuminates the way. When the world tells you to give up, faith whispers in your ear that the journey is worth it. It is easy to be swayed by the opinions of others, to let the praise or criticism of the world dictate your actions. But true greatness comes when you anchor yourself in something more solid, more enduring: faith. Faith is what keeps you focused on the bigger picture, on the eternal rewards that come from living in alignment with your higher purpose. In the end, popularity fades, trends change, and the masses move on to the next big thing, but faith, real faith, remains. It is a foundation that does not crumble, a strength that endures. Those who choose faith over popularity will find that while the road may be more difficult, the rewards are far greater. They will not only experience personal growth and fulfillment, but they will also leave a legacy that will outlast the fleeting applause of this world. True greatness, therefore, is not about how many people know your name, but about how deeply you live in alignment with your faith, regardless of the recognition you receive. The road to greatness is not a smooth, easy path. It is marked by challenges, hardships, and moments that will make you question everything. But it is in these trials that the heart is tested, refined, and prepared for what lies ahead. Trials are not simply obstacles in the journey, they are opportunities for growth. They reveal the depth of your character, your resilience, and your commitment to the purpose that you are called to fulfill. When we face trials, we often feel as though we are being pulled in multiple directions. The weight of the struggle feels unbearable at times, and the desire to quit can seem overwhelming. There are moments when the pain is so deep that it feels like it will never end. Yet it is in these very moments of discomfort and difficulty that the heart is either hardened or made stronger. The trials you face test what is truly inside of you. They expose what you are made of and reveal the areas in your life that need to be refined. The heart is the core of who we are. It is the place from which our desires, motivations, and actions flow. When life is easy, when the world is on our side, it is easy to feel strong, to feel confident. But it is when we are tested that we discover what truly resides within us. Are we driven by fear or by faith? Do we rely on our own strength, or do we trust in a higher power to carry us through the storm? Trials strip away the external layers of success and status, leaving us with nothing but the truth of who we are on the inside. It is in this vulnerability that we are faced with a choice to either rise or fall. Every great person who has ever walked the earth has faced trials. They have been tested in ways that most cannot imagine, but it was through these struggles that their true character was revealed. They did not become great despite their trials. They became great because of them. Each challenge was an opportunity to prove their strength, their faith, and their commitment to their calling. Without these trials, they would have remained ordinary. It is the test of the heart that separates the strong from the weak, the faithful from the fearful. When you face a trial, it is easy to question the fairness of life. Why me? Why now? What did I do to deserve this? These are natural thoughts that arise when we are in the midst of hardship. But the truth is, trials do not come to punish us. They come to prepare us. They come to shape us into the people we need to become in order to fulfill the purpose we are meant to achieve. It is through the fire of adversity that the gold of greatness is refined. Without it, we remain untested, unproven, and unprepared for the challenges that lie ahead. It is important to remember that trials are not permanent. They are seasons. They are temporary tests designed to shape your heart, your mind, and your spirit. And though they may seem overwhelming at the moment, they are often the very things that set you apart from others. While others may choose to give up, to turn back, to settle for what is easy, you will find the strength to endure. You will rise above the challenges, knowing that each trial is a stepping stone toward the greatness you are destined for. But even more than that, trials teach us to rely on something greater than ourselves. They humble us. They remind us that we are not invincible, that we cannot face the struggles of life alone. When we are brought to our knees, it is often in these moments that we find God, that we find the strength to keep going. Trials bring us to a place where we are forced to trust in the unseen, to walk by faith rather than by sight. They remind us that true strength is not found in our own abilities, but in our surrender to a higher power. Through trials, we come to understand the true meaning of perseverance. We learn that the road to greatness is not for the faint of heart. It is for those who are willing to endure, to push through the pain, and to emerge stronger on the other side. It is for those who refuse to give up, who choose to press on even when the world tells them to quit. In the end, it is these individuals, those who have endured the greatest tests, who will stand at the pinnacle of greatness, knowing that their trials were the very things that made them who they are. Throughout history, we find that some of the most impactful lives were led by individuals who walked alone. In a world that celebrates crowds, followers, and popularity, God often calls the lonely. He chooses those who stand apart, who are set aside in moments of solitude to carry out his divine purposes. These individuals may seem ordinary in the eyes of the world, but it is precisely their isolation that prepares them for the extraordinary work that lies ahead. Loneliness is often misunderstood. In our human nature, we view it as a weakness, a place of despair, a sign that something is wrong. Yet in the divine perspective, loneliness is a powerful tool. It is in the quiet, in the solitude, that God refines the heart. He removes distractions and pulls his chosen ones into a place where they can hear his voice clearly. It is a place where they can wrestle with themselves, with their doubts, their fears, and their uncertainties, until they are shaped and molded into vessels fit for his purpose. God does not call the crowd to his work. He calls the individual. He chooses the one who is willing to be set apart, to be refined in the silence, to walk a path that few understand. It is not that God does not care for the masses. He does. But he knows that in the midst of the crowd, his voice can often be drowned out. It is when a person is alone that they can hear his whisper, feel his presence, and be drawn into a deeper relationship with him. Consider the great leaders in the Bible, those whom God used to change the course of history. Moses was called in the wilderness, away from the people, when he was a shepherd in the desert. David, before he was anointed as king, spent years alone in the fields, protecting sheep and developing a heart after God. Jesus, the Son of God, often withdrew to solitary places to pray, to seek his Father's will, and to prepare for the work that he would do. These were not times of weakness, but moments of divine preparation. It was in their isolation that they were made ready for the challenges they would face, the battles they would win, and the legacies they would leave behind. God chooses the lonely because in that solitude he has the space to work. When we are surrounded by others, we are distracted by their opinions, their judgments, and their expectations. In solitude, we are forced to confront our own hearts. We must face our insecurities, our doubts, and our fears. But it is in this very place of discomfort that God is shaping us, purifying us, and making us ready for the work he has prepared for us. Loneliness also teaches us to depend on God. It is easy to rely on others when we are in the midst of a crowd, to lean on their support, to draw strength from their encouragement. But in solitude, we find that our true source of strength must come from God alone. He is our refuge, our comfort, our provider. In our loneliness, we learn to trust him fully, to surrender our fears, and to rely on his faithfulness. It is in this place that we are transformed into the individuals he desires us to be. The lonely road is not an easy one. It is not a path that many choose. It is a place where the soul is stretched, where the heart is tested, and where the spirit is refined. But it is also the place where God reveals his presence most powerfully. It is in the quiet, in the solitude, that he draws close to those he has chosen for his work. While others may seek the company of the crowd, those who walk alone with God will find that they are never truly alone. They are in the presence of the one who has called them, and it is in this presence that they will find their true strength. God's call often comes in the most unexpected of places: the wilderness, the desert, the quiet corners of life. It is in these places that the chosen ones are prepared for the great tasks ahead. While the world may look at them with pity or wonder why they are set apart, God knows exactly why he has chosen them for this time and for this purpose. It is because they are willing to walk alone, to embrace the silence, and to trust that he will be with them every step of the way. And in the end, when the work is done and the purpose fulfilled, they will know that it was in their loneliness that they were made strong. It was in the solitude that God shaped their character, tested their faith, and prepared them to fulfill His divine plan. For those who walk the lonely road with God, greatness is not only in what they accomplish, but in who they become along the way. To be called to greatness, to be chosen for a purpose greater than oneself, comes with a price. A higher calling is not a path of comfort or ease. It is not for the faint of heart or the uncommitted. It demands sacrifice, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to something far greater than personal ambition. The higher the calling, the higher the cost. And it is in the willingness to pay that price that true greatness is forged. When we think of a higher calling, we often envision a life filled with honor, recognition, and success. We picture the fulfillment of dreams and the achievement of goals. But the reality is that the road to greatness is fraught with trials, challenges, and moments of deep sacrifice. Those who answer the call to serve something larger than themselves must often let go of their own desires and comforts. They must surrender their personal plans to walk in alignment with a purpose that may require them to stand alone, to face opposition, or to endure hardship. The cost of a higher calling is not always obvious at first. It is not always clear from the beginning just how much you will have to give up in order to pursue your purpose. But as the journey unfolds, the price becomes evident. It may mean walking away from relationships that hold you back, from comforts that keep you complacent, or from a life of ease that has lured you into a state of complacency. The higher the calling, the more it demands from you. It is a sacrifice of time, energy, and resources, but most importantly, it is a sacrifice of self. Consider the lives of those who have answered the call to greatness. These are individuals who, when faced with the choice between the world's offerings and the higher calling, chose the path of sacrifice. They did not seek fame or fortune. Instead, they were willing to lose all in pursuit of a higher purpose. They knew that their calling required them to give everything, to lay down their personal desires in order to fulfill the greater good. They did not allow the fear of loss or the pain of sacrifice to deter them. They understood that the price was steep, but they also knew that the rewards were far greater than anything the world could offer. The cost of a higher calling is not just about external sacrifices, though. It also requires an inner transformation. Those who are called to greatness must be willing to confront their own weaknesses, their fears, and their insecurities. They must be willing to allow God to shape them, to refine their character, and to strengthen their resolve. The calling is not just about what you do, it is about who you become in the process. The cost is not only in what you give up, but in the way that you must grow, evolve, and mature in order to fulfill the purpose you are called to. It is in this transformation that the true cost is revealed. The higher the calling, the greater the internal work that must be done. You will be stretched beyond what you thought was possible. You will face challenges that will test your faith, your patience, and your commitment. There will be moments when you feel like giving up, when the weight of the calling seems too heavy to bear. But it is in these moments that the cost becomes clear. The cost of a higher calling is not simply a matter of sacrifice, it is a matter of perseverance. It is about pushing through the moments of doubt, trusting that the purpose you are serving is worth the struggle. The higher calling will also often require you to step out of your comfort zone and into the unknown. It will require you to take risks, to face your fears, and to trust in something greater than your own understanding. The path may not always be clear, and the destination may seem distant, but those who answer the call are willing to step out in faith, knowing that each step forward brings them closer to the fulfillment of their purpose. In the end, the cost of a higher calling is worth it. Though it may require sacrifice, pain, and growth, it also brings a sense of fulfillment that cannot be found through the pursuit of personal gain or worldly success. It brings the joy of knowing that you are living in alignment with a greater purpose, that your life is making a difference in ways that you cannot fully see. Those who have answered the call understand that greatness is not measured by what you achieve for yourself, but by how faithfully you serve the higher purpose that you were called to fulfill. There is a way of living that transcends the limitations of what we can see and understand. It is a way of life that moves beyond our immediate circumstances and rests on a conviction that there is more than what meets the eye. This is the life of walking by faith, not sight. It is a life that chooses to trust in the unseen, to place hope in the promises of God, and to move forward even when the path ahead is unclear. Walking by faith means stepping into the unknown, knowing that you are not alone, and trusting that God's guidance will illuminate the way even when the road seems dark. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. It is not based on what is visible or measurable. In the natural world, we are conditioned to rely on our senses, on what we can touch, see, and understand. We place our trust in what we know, in the tangible, in what we can predict. But walking by faith requires a different approach. It requires that we step out of the comfort of what is known and take a leap into the unknown, trusting that God will provide the answers we need at the right time. The journey of faith is not an easy one. It demands that we let go of our need for control, our desire to have everything figured out, and our reliance on our own understanding. When we walk by sight, we rely on what is before us. We look at our present circumstances, our limitations, and we make decisions based on what we can see in the moment. But when we walk by faith, we are not bound by what we see. We trust in a higher power, in a greater purpose that is at work beyond our current perspective. There will be times when the road ahead seems unclear. There will be moments when the challenges appear too great, when the obstacles seem insurmountable. In those moments, it is easy to be swayed by doubt and fear. Our natural instinct is to rely on what we can see and understand. We want answers now. We want solutions immediately. And we want to know that everything will be okay. But walking by faith calls us to trust even when we don't have the answers. It calls us to surrender our anxieties and to believe that God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail of our lives. Walking by faith means choosing to trust in God's timing even when it doesn't align with our own. It means waiting patiently for His direction, trusting that His ways are higher than our ways and that His plan for us is greater than anything we could imagine. It is about relying on the assurance that although we cannot see the full picture, God sees everything. He knows the beginning from the end, and He is leading us step by step toward the fulfillment of His purpose for our lives. One of the greatest challenges of walking by faith is the waiting. Faith often requires us to wait for answers, to wait for clarity, and to wait for God's provision. In our fast-paced world, we are used to getting what we want quickly, but walking by faith teaches us patience. It teaches us to trust that even in the waiting, God is working. Even when we cannot see it, He is moving on our behalf. Faith calls us to hold on to hope when everything seems uncertain and to keep moving forward one step at a time, even when we cannot see what lies ahead. Walking by faith also requires courage. It takes courage to trust in what is unseen, to act on the belief that God is guiding you even when you can't see the next step. It requires the courage to step out into the unknown, to take risks, and to follow God's call, even when the path is not clearly marked. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to press on despite it. It is the strength to keep going when the future is unclear, knowing that faith will sustain you. In the end, walking by faith is a journey of trust and surrender. It is not about having all the answers or understanding every step along the way. It is about trusting in God's character, His goodness, and His faithfulness. It is about believing that He is with you, guiding you, and leading you to a place of fulfillment and purpose. It is about choosing to walk forward not by sight, but by faith, knowing that He will never leave you or forsake you. And when you choose to walk by faith, you will find that even in the darkest of times, His light will guide you, His strength will carry you, and His love will sustain you. In every great story, there comes a point when the odds seem insurmountable, the struggle appears endless, and victory seems impossible. It is in these moments that the true strength of the faithful is revealed. The world often places its trust in power, wealth, and status, believing that these are the keys to success. Yet there is a deeper truth that echoes through the lives of those who walk by faith. Victory belongs to the faithful. It is not those who rely on their own strength or their own understanding that emerge victorious. It is those who remain steadfast in their trust in God, who hold on to His promises despite the challenges, who experience the triumph that only faith can bring. Faith is not just belief. It is action, it is perseverance, and it is trust in something greater than ourselves. To be faithful means to stand firm in the midst of adversity, to hold on when everything around you tells you to let go. It is to remain committed to the calling you have been given, even when the path is uncertain and the end is not in sight. Faithfulness requires endurance. It is the ability to keep going when the world around you is falling apart. And it is in this endurance that victory is found. The world often celebrates those who achieve success quickly or easily, those who appear to have everything together and seem to effortlessly overcome obstacles. But true victory, the kind that lasts, is born from the journey of faith. It is not given to those who are simply lucky or talented, but to those who have persevered through trial, who have faced their fears and doubts head on, and who have refused to give up. The faithful do not shrink in the face of difficulty. Instead, they press on, knowing that the prize at the end is worth the struggle. Their victory is not just the result of their actions, it is the fruit of their unwavering belief and trust in God's timing and plan. There is something deeply powerful about those who remain faithful, even when they cannot see the outcome. In the moments when the storm rages and the future looks bleak, the faithful hold on to the promise that God is with them. They know that their victory is not dependent on the circumstances around them, but on the strength of their faith. The faithful understand that God's plans are higher than their own and that His timing is perfect. It is in this understanding that they find peace, knowing that victory is assured not because of their own efforts, but because of God's faithfulness to them. Victory is not always immediate. Sometimes the faithful must endure long seasons of waiting, of striving, of hoping against hope. They may not see the fruits of their labor right away, and they may wonder if their faith is in vain, but the faithful are those who do not lose heart, who continue to press forward even when they do not see the results they desire. They understand that victory is not always seen in the moment, but often comes after a long period of perseverance. Just as a seed must be buried in the ground before it can bear fruit, so too must the faithful endure the process before they see the harvest of their faith. The victory of the faithful is not only a personal triumph, but a testimony to the world around them. When others see how the faithful endure hardship with grace, when they witness the strength that comes from unwavering trust in God, they are reminded of the power of faith. The victory of the faithful shines as a beacon of hope for those who are struggling, for those who have lost their way, and for those who feel that victory is out of reach. It is through their steadfastness that others come to believe that victory is possible, that it is worth fighting for, and that it is not a victory of this world, but a victory that transcends this life. The victory that belongs to the faithful is not just for this world, but for the world to come. It is the victory of eternal life, the victory of God's promises fulfilled. For the faithful, the greatest victory is not a temporary crown or fleeting recognition, but the assurance of a place in God's eternal kingdom. This victory is secure, unshakable, and impervious to the trials and tribulations of this world. It is a victory that cannot be taken away by time, by circumstance, or by the hands of man. It is the reward for those who have remained faithful, who have walked the path of perseverance, who have trusted in God's plan even when they did not understand it. Victory belongs to the faithful because the faithful are those who understand that the battle is not theirs alone. They know that their strength comes from God, that their victory is secured in His power, and that in the end, He is the one who will bring them to triumph. The faithful endure not because they are strong in themselves, but because they rely on the strength of the one who holds the future in His hands. And it is in this reliance on God that true victory is found. In conclusion, the journey of faith is not an easy one, but it is the path that leads to true victory. Walking by faith, not by sight, requires us to trust in the unseen, to lean on God's strength, and to remain steadfast even when the road is unclear. The cost of a higher calling is steep, but the rewards are immeasurable, and those who walk this path with faith are transformed along the way. God chooses the lonely and calls the faithful, shaping them for a purpose far greater than they could ever achieve on their own. The trials we face serve to refine us, test our hearts, and deepen our trust in Him. Through every challenge, every moment of solitude, and every act of sacrifice, victory belongs to the faithful. It is not about what we see with our eyes, but about trusting in God's perfect timing and His eternal promises. As we remain faithful, even in the face of adversity, we find the victory that is rooted not in our own strength, but in the faithfulness of the God who calls us to greatness.